I'm sure most of you have seen the Marner and Mark Masters interview. If you're on here, you're a hockey fan, you're a Leaf fan, doesn't really matter. I'm sure you've seen it. I got a little bit of a story time here. I also have a bit of the Leafs perspective. Steve Simmons also put out an article, so we're going to go through all of that in this video. If you didn't see the video, long story short, Mitch Marner talks about the end of his tenure in Toronto and how he had experienced a lot of backlash and fan comments and things like that, and that towards the end, his address was leaked, that his father-in-law had said that. You know what? I'll say this, and we're going to get into it on this video. There's a lot of crazies out there. The Leafs have their own perspective. Steve Simmons just dropped an article, so we're going to go through that in a second, and I'm going to show a snippet of the article. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of athletes that face this. And to give you guys a bit of an outlook on the situation with Toronto right now, Morgan Rielly had to delete his Instagram this summer. Just to get you guys an idea of sometimes how bad it is across the board. It's not just Mitch Marner. It's a lot of guys have to face this. And obviously Morgan Rielly's been a center of criticism with the Toronto Maple Leafs in the past couple of years and specifically last year. So he was facing that and he's kind of the punching bag right now. So Mitch Marner using this when there's a lot of other reasons why he went to Vegas, money being one of them. We're going to talk about that also in this video. That's a huge perspective, not because fans were in his DMs. So this is the snippet from Steve Simmons' article. He just dropped it if you guys want to go check it out. I know Steve Simmons is not the best example of this because he gets at other players. He definitely is not pro-Toronto players. We've seen it in the past. But this is also just the perspective from the Toronto Maple Leafs and really any other NHL organization or sports organization. Like, at the time, Marner was Toronto's player property. He was an asset to the team. So they're going to take those security concerns seriously. And you see that top line. The Leafs are well aware of the crazies out there on social media and monitor them regularly. Like, we've seen it time and time again. And to give you guys a little bit of a perspective, like with Morgan Rielly deleting his Instagram, with certain players in the past, where there was Dion Phaneuf getting the abuse, like there's a lot of guys in Toronto and a lot of guys in different organizations that have faced this. So Mitch Marner did not leave Toronto for security reasons. He's making a lot more money and taking home a lot more money in Vegas with the Golden Knights. He doesn't have to be in the spotlight with commercials or partnerships or sponsors. Like, he doesn't have to do that. He's just making money, more money outright with his salary and bonuses. So that's a big thing. I also want to make it clear that in the U.S., in terms of crime and violent crime per population, like Nevada is like in the top 10 for some of those categories. So he's going to Nevada. And at the end of the day, when he was at gunpoint and that car situation with Mitch Marner, that is not a fan situation. That is a crime one-off situation that obviously is scary, but that happens way more in the US. So if that's the perspective, if he's leaving Toronto because of that, which that's not the case, that would be very backwards because you're going to Nevada, which they're in top 10 for a lot of categories in terms of violent crime. So I just want to put that out there. And for the Toronto Maple Leafs, being one of the more rich organizations in the National Hockey League, they can financially support their players outside of their salaries in terms of how they're treated. And he's going to get that top treatment in Vegas, and I'm not saying he's not going to, but I think it needs to be really clear, made clear, that the Leafs could have supported this player in a lot of other ways, and he did not leave because of security concerns. He left because this player clearly cannot handle the spotlight. And he left because the team and player really needed to go separate ways. And he's getting a lot more money in Vegas with his take-home money. And I'll make this clear. He's also leaving family and friends. His parents had the full support in this decision too. I mean, just to give you a bit of a story time, when we ran into Mitch Marner after the Centennial Classic, all the way back in 2017, how vocal even his mom was around like fans and just with like Marner, like kind of demanding Mitch what to do in front of people. Like, you know that they're heavily involved in everything that happens. And there's been a lot of stories that I've even heard of his parents being vocal in front of players, in front of coaches at year-end parties, things like that. So I just want to keep that in mind as well for everyone kind of on this situation. He did not leave Toronto because of security concerns. So I do feel for Mitch Marner, but there's a lot of examples of these things happening. Add this one to the list. And add this to the list. So long story short, it's not just a Toronto thing. It's a sports thing. It actually happens way more overseas, like Premier League or even in other sports and other leagues. So I feel for Mitch. No one should have to experience that. But this story was definitely manipulated for a lot of fans to feel empathy towards this player that is making a lot more money than a lot of those people feeling bad. And on top of that, is not the reason why he left Toronto.